Awesome. Well, hello, hello, hello. I'm Heather Prasiansky, and this is Monumental Millionaire. We are in episode 4, super exciting. And I am here today, as always, with the lovely Laura Wright and the beautiful Stephanie Nicolich. Hello, ladies. How are you?
Hello, hello, hello.
Hi. And we're joined today by our guest, Brittany Bullen. Hi, Brittany. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you so much for having me.
We're so excited to have you. So, Brittany, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, because I'm not very good at doing introductions, and you're going to be way, way better at it. And then we can discuss a little bit about what you've brought for us to chat about today.
Yes. So my name is Brittany Bullen. I am the mother of 3 fantastic boys. I am the owner of nerdygirl.co. We are a marketing company. We have a team of over 100 awesome freelancers all around the country. And we're in the business of connecting them with the business owners who need their services. So we do everything from social media management to advertising to, we do a lot of writing. We do some web design, graphic design, anything you might hire a freelancer for, we can pretty much do. And I, in that journey of building that business, have discovered a need for a sort of mentorship that goes beyond just marketing and that goes into mindset. Because what I've discovered with all of our clients is that there's so many issues with the two being intertwined. And I know we were just talking about that. There's a really big difference between the business owners that we work with who've been really successful and the ones who haven't, but we'll get into that in a minute. But that's who I am, and I'm happy to be here.
So excited to have you here. And Brittany's company is awesome. You guys are so responsive, and we've used your services before, so we know that you guys are like on the ball. And so why don't you tell us the topic that you brought for us here today? You're kind of dropping hints like mad bombs over here, so just let us have it. Let us know.
All around this topic of the combination of marketing and mindset and how that all intertwines together. And particularly, I wanted to talk a little bit about making the transition from the startup phase to the scalable phase, to the like, awesome, this is a legit business phase.
Yeah.
And I'd like to just kind of hear from you guys, because I know you guys all work with business owners as well, what kinds of issues that you see arising. Because what I noticed is that the startup phase is kind of like this whirlpool, and a lot of people get stuck there and they just go around in circles for years. And then they find that there's this one something, whatever it is, they have this turning point, and then their business becomes real. It becomes, something that's not a drain on their resources, but something that actually can grow. And I think we all kind of have those stories. But that's kind of my first question for you guys is like, do you have a story like that where you were stuck in the startup whirlpool, and then what got you out of it?
Yeah. Well, Laura's like,
I think that is actually all of us. I'll go first if you want. Yeah. I remember I actually got stuck because I was doing done for you services versus coaching others. And I was actually in this place where about 80% of my income came from 2 big clients. And while I was making a lot, it wasn't like, I had this breakdown where I sold for one gal about $85,000 in 1 month. And then I got my check. And it was like $6,000, and I was so upset because like I just did all this work and all this stuff. So what I did to get myself like to the next level was I actually released my 2 biggest clients, 80% of our income. I packed up my family. We moved up to New York for a month, and I put my head down and I just did like, my goal was to do 100 sales calls to bring in new clients in the month. I did 37, but I brought in 13 new clients. I banked more than I had, like double more than the month before, but I booked in that 1 month more than I had made the whole year before. And that changed everything, but it was all because of environment change and my mindset shift, and I committed to do everything completely differently. And the moment I did that, just everything took off. Yeah.
That's so funny because I play a similar game with my clients. I call it 100 Powerful Conversations. And the goal is to try to get to 100. And it's very, very rare that you actually do, because that's a lot to do in like a month, right? But the purpose of it is to really get you head down and focused into getting freaking clients instead of doing all of these other things that you think that you have to be doing. Because then what we do is we start to hire those things out. And I know Stephanie will probably be all over that as well, right? Because I know, you know, you're all about the outsourcing. And that was one big thing that I did was before I was ready, I hired my VA and my personal assistant. And those two people, you know, it kind of got me to the point where I'm like, oh shit, I am now responsible not only for my own livelihood, but also for theirs. And you have no choice but to make it happen. And that is a big mind shift for you, right? Because we kind of fall into this, you know, as much as we really want to be successful, at some point in time, we're kind of like, it's okay if I'm not, but it's not okay when you have other people to take care of, right? Like, it's not okay when, you know, my personal assistant, I know if I don't pay her on Friday, she can't get groceries for the weekend, right? Because she goes grocery shopping on Friday and she relies on that. And, you know, if she's at the grocery store and she hasn't got my e-transfer yet, then she's texting me, right? She's like, and I'm like, oh, I forgot it was Friday, right? And so it's really important for, and I really do think that that's a huge mind shift for you when you're responsible for others. But it also allows you to focus in on the tasks that are going to make you money. So, you know, when you look and you see, and in the beginning, I was doing all of these tasks that I could pay somebody 10, 15, 20, 25, whatever dollars per hour to do. And I can do tasks where I'm making hundreds of dollars per hour, or I could be creating course material where I might make thousands of dollars for the number of hours that I put into it. And when you start adding that up and you take a look at how much you're actually paying yourself, when you write down all the tasks you do in a day, and then you total up, you know, how much could I outsource this from? See how much you're actually paying yourself. And I was like, shit, I'm not paying myself very much, right? Like, I'm not paying myself as much as the goals that I want to be making. I was maybe paying myself like $1,000 or $200 or $1,200 a week. And I'm like, I could go get a minimum wage job and make that, right? So why am I doing this? Why am I working all of these hours?
Okay, so I've got two things. First of all, I apologize for my janky nails because I'm in the midst of moving. So I was like, couldn't get a manicure this morning. But real life, okay? So anyway, I'll just put it out there. So two things. One is quit quickly. And when I had gotten to a point in my business where I could see like how we were going to experience significant growth, I literally would retire myself from doing any activity that wasn't going to get me there. Mm-hmm. So it would be serving private clients. And I did so, like, as Laura said, like at the scariest moment in my business. Like last July, I had my best month ever. And then I was like, not doing private mentoring anymore, like no one-on-one support. And like, people are like, why would you make that decision after your best month of business? And I was like, well, it wasn't my best use of time. In all reality, I was working a lot then. And I was also pregnant. So it was like, I had to project how we were going to get to the next step. And quite frankly, it wasn't going to be one-on-one work for me. So I quit quickly. Instead of like pondering over it and taking more clients and being afraid of it, I was like, no, this is what's going to get us there. And I have to walk away from it right now in order to get to the next step. And I think it's something that most people aren't really willing to do because that was majority of my income. Like that's super scary. In all reality, I had no idea how it was actually going to match that income or potentially make more than that, right? So it's every decision that you make every step of the way is equally as scary or maybe even more scary when you get to this certain point of growth because the decisions you're making impact more people or affect more people. Like I was like, we had like a team of 8 people at this point. Like that's a lot of people, right? Yeah. But the thing is, the more people that I outsource activities to that are totally outside of my zone of genius, the less work that I do, the happier that I am, the happier that my clients are, the more like rock star content I can produce, the more people that I can serve that need me the most. And that's it. That's all I do. I produce content and I serve my clients. That's it. Like in my group programs, I'm available to them. And so that's the only thing that I do. And like creating space for that is one of the most significant things that you can do in your business because I truly feel like the way that my business has like taken off in a short amount of time contributes to the fact that I've said no to a lot of things along the way. Yeah. The other thing is, I might drop the F-bomb. Like,
how many times have I already?
Like, stop with the excuses. Like, if I hear one more excuse, I might just die. I mean, if you really want it, it's available for you. Like, we don't have these superpowers that we're just hoarding inside of ourselves that no I mean, we're all
You're not.
But like, oh my goodness, it's like there's really no difference between any single one of us or any person that has, established a significant amount of success, other than the people that are still kind of at that, starting phase. It's just that we've taken a lot of risks and we've never made excuses. I know for me, I mean, my success story wasn't always a success story. In my previous business, I was well over $100,000 worth of debt because I was wallowing in the bullshit. I was like, oh my God, but I can't make this money. And I was like, once I hired my mentor and I realized, like, holy crap, I'm keeping myself stuck because of my own thoughts and my own actions and my own realities. Then I'm the only one that can change this. Then I really needed to put my butt down to get to work and stop making excuses. That was the first point. Like, I would literally say to myself, like, how bad do you want this? And it's something that I say to my clients, like, how bad do you really want this? Because if you really want this bad enough, you'll do whatever it takes to get there. And that's totally my mentality. And sometimes it means waking up an hour earlier for a month or going to bed an hour later or doing one less activity during the day. You will do it to get there. So that's my personal opinion. Radical personal responsibility.
Yeah.
Yes. So kind of a common theme that I noticed running through all of your stories was this moment of risk, of being like, this has to work. Do you guys think that's like essential for it? I mean, do you really think you have to like burn the bridges and like be in this state of like desperation to move forward, or not necessarily?
I don't think
have an interesting thought on that one, because I think it depends on who you are.
Yeah.
I have 2 clients who released their full-time jobs, so we worked together. And if they had quit first, they would have, I'm not going to say they would have failed, but it would have been way too much stress. So we actually mapped out plans for them to leave over like one was for 4 months, one was about 5 months. And so they didn't burn the ships, they built the bridge. I'm a burn the shipster, but I know that anytime I want something, like if I put the biggest goal possible and then I crush like all abilities for me to do anything that I used to do, I'm going to go to the skyrocket. But I think you have to know yourself. Are you a burn the boats or build the bridger? And do that one.
I like the way that you put that too, because I'm a total burn the bridger, and I'm a total, if I'm not super uncomfortable, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. So I have to make myself super uncomfortable to really shift myself forward. And, I do that by doing things before I'm ready. And, like I said, hiring people when I had no money coming in, was sort of like, oh, I have to have money coming in now. And you just make it happen, right? But I've always been that way. And I've been that way right back to my early 20s when I was in corporate. When I wanted a job, I'd be like, cool, you're not going to give it to me. I'll find it somewhere else. I'd go apply somewhere else, get that job, come on back and be like, yeah, I'm quitting. Bye. No, I did that multiple times when I worked in the bank, right? And because they had this sort of thing where, I can remember a story where I first started, and this particular job I applied to over 100 times. And they kept telling me, no, 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 you need a master's degree. You need experience, you need this, you need that. And at the time I was working as a retail manager and I was making like 50 grand a year, and they were telling me you have to go be a teller first. And I'm like, I can't go be a teller and make 20 grand a year. I'm not going to make a $30,000 pay cut. You're just going to hire me as an account manager. And eventually they did, after I think it was the 108th time that I applied. Up until a couple of years ago, I still have the spreadsheet of all the applications. Every single time a position would open up, this particular position at any of the Royal Banks, it had to be the Royal Bank. I was like, I have to work at the Royal Bank because it's Canada's largest bank and they had the best training program. And I was like, that's how I'm going to be successful in this, right? And so I just sort of had it in my head that I'm going to do this no matter what it takes. And I applied 108 times, was turned down 107. I can remember one manager being really nasty to me about it, was like, no, you don't have a master's degree, you don't have this, you don't have that, you're never, ever, ever going to work in this company. And I was like, fuck you, right? I just kept going and kept doing it. And it just so happened that the very last interview, the one that I got hired for, was in my hometown. And I wasn't living in my hometown at the time. I was living up in Guelph. And I walked in and the manager, she pointed at me and she was like, you sold me jeans. And at the time I was managing a denim store, right? And I was like, yeah, I have no clue. I didn't even remember, right? And she was like, no, I totally remember you. You're a really good salesperson. You should work for me. And I was like, yeah, I should. That's why I'm here. And so it just so happened that she had been running the branch right across from where I lived in Guelph. And then she transferred down to Chatham, to my hometown. And, you know, it was sort of this like beautiful mix. And, you know, I could move back towards home. And, you know, it just ended up being really wonderful. But the first thing I said to her was, I want to move up in this company. How do I do it? And she said to me, well, you have to get to #1 salesperson. I'm like, hey, done. And within a month, I was there, #1. And I just stayed there for months and months and months and months. And then a position came up and I applied for it. And they were like, well, you haven't really put in enough time. And I was like, what? You told me I had to be #1. That's what you told me I had to do. That's what I did. So I was just sort of like, well, screw you. I'm #1. I'm just going to go somewhere else, right? So I burned the bridge. It just so happened that they ended up giving it to me when I found another job. It was this really weird dichotomy. It's sort of political in the banking industry here, but you know, that just kept happening and happening and happening. And soon I had done almost every job within that bank. And I ended up going, you know, well, I'm kind of as high as I can go now here. And do I really want to be traveling all over the place, or do I want to do something else? And I ended up opting to go into marketing. And so, yeah, you know, those stories, though, you really have to look back on your past and know what has gotten you to success in the past. If I look at someone like my husband, like he will not move somewhere unless he has something really stable and really, you know, he has to have a guarantee before he can move forward, or he'll freak out and he'll shut down, right?
Yeah.
So
I feel like the common thread between all of us in this conversation is determination. So I wouldn't classify it as desperation by any means, but
yeah.
I can most certainly relate to your story, because I was pretty much the same way in corporate America. Give me a chance and I'm going to work my way to the top. Like, that's just what I did. I showed up, and everybody else was kind of like, do. And I was like, all right, I'll stay late. I'll come in early. I'll take more calls. I don't care what it takes. But I think it takes a special person to have that inside of you. Like, not everybody's necessarily like that. But it's a really good quality to have, especially as an entrepreneur. Because I like, sometimes my team's like, oh my God, you're like, you don't stop. And I'm like, I don't stop, because why? Like, that's just not in my DNA. Like, you gotta keep going. And like, shit hits the fan regularly when you're growing a business. Like, things come up and you gotta keep going. And so, you know, I had like a project manager recently, and it wasn't a great relationship, and kind of my business was held hostage. Very weird situation. But anyway, it was time to say goodbye, right? Well, she actually left the company, and it was kind of uncomfortable because it was in a big period of transition. But the thing was, I kept going. I was like, okay, great. What are the other options? I have to keep exploring that, because we have a vision and we have people to serve, and we have a team of people that rely on us, and it's so important. So I feel like sometimes, like, when we become in this position, kind of like a power position, that we kind of become classified as bitches. But it's not that by any means. It's literally the ability to tweak and shift and respond appropriately in a short amount of time, and take action, and to quit quickly when things aren't working. And I think it's really, really, really important, because like, I had a client that was afraid to say goodbye to assistant. Like, she was great up until a certain level, but she wasn't going to take her business to the next level. And as a result, it was dragging her down in every way, shape, or form. So I think it's like, it's a tough position to be in all reality, right? Like, sometimes, I talked about this yesterday, sometimes we have to make some really tough decisions every step of the way, but it's not because we're necessarily bitches. Like, I really actually love people. It's because we have a team of people to support, we have a bunch of clients to support, and the show's got to go on, right? It's got to keep going. So I guess another really great characteristic is the ability to shift as the tide changes. Instead of staying so stuck to one route to getting somewhere, right, which never typically looks the way it's supposed to look, you have to be willing to go in different directions to get that same end result, and to share your voice, and to share your vision, and to impact more people, and to do what you do the best. And sometimes it becomes extremely uncomfortable along the way, right?
Yeah, it's that compass.
Oh, sorry. I have another question for you. And this one is kind of for Stephanie, but kind of for all of you, because I feel like we've had similar journeys, where early on in my business, I had a VC guy ready to invest. We had these like multi-million-dollar projections. I mean, we were going to be just huge. And he gave us the seed capital to start. And we had this vision for what the business was going to be, and this model that we thought we had nailed, but we didn't actually nail before we tried to scale it. And that was my big mistake. Like, I really, like, early on in my business, I almost tanked us because I spent money on this model that wasn't going to work. And so for me, my biggest block, and what I am now working to help other business owners overcome, is this block where you get into this mode where you've made mistakes with money in the past, and your biggest fear is to spend money on the wrong thing. So you just don't. So you just stop investing in your business, and it can't grow because you're just sure that you're going to make the same mistake twice. So for somebody who's been in that position and not managed money, you know, I don't know if you would agree that you didn't manage money well, but I certainly don't feel like I did. So how do you balance that? I mean, how do you go from that sort of experience and then turn it around and say, I'm okay with investing, and like how much, you know, like how much are you comfortable investing and why, and how is it different the second time? Does that make sense?
I think in my experience, so there's much more of like an application process. It's like I'm testing their abilities to be the right fit. And sometimes they're still not the right fit, obviously, if you hire somebody to do something for you. But I give them like micro projects, if that makes sense. Like, I'm not going to go and sign this long 6-month contract if I don't know that we're even a good fit to work together. Because I'm like testing the waters. Like, I want you to be a good fit, but I want to be a good fit for you too, because there's two sides to this, right? So I will like give a small project and be like, all right, I'll assess. Like, how did this go? Was it timely? Was it on time? Was the communication, was I able to communicate with this person? Did they get the concept of the project? Like, I have this migration of ClickFunnels. It took me 3 people to get it done, you know?
Really?
But it wasn't actually a whole lot of money that was spent as a result of that, because like I said, like, we'll start with 1 page at a time. Okay, do this page, come back to me. Let's see if you can keep the integrity of the design, if the functionality, you know, because a lot of people are quote unquote experts, right, in the space. And I set some boundaries, like, okay, try this out. If it works, let's do it. Let's talk about a month long, and then a 6 month. I want to keep my people on my team when I have the people that are going to help me grow this vision, right? But I also want to know on both ends that we're a good fit first. So I would say that. Also, like, when I started and I had no money, and I still had, well, the first person I hired was a bookkeeper. In my previous business, I never paid attention to the numbers, so that didn't really serve me. You actually have to look at your profit and loss statements. Yeah. Look at them. You actually have to look at them. Yeah. So that, but I kept a bookkeeper into my next business, and I did start paying attention to the numbers, because it was really important to see, well, what areas are we really growing in, and then where am I just spending money and not necessarily getting a return on investment, right? So I'd look at the numbers every month. Even when you're not making a whole lot of money, it's still really, really, really important to know your numbers. I'm speaking from experience, because not paying attention got me into over $100,000 worth of debt, right? Terrible. The next thing is, for me, I'm totally anti.
Oh, we're losing you.
Just freeze up.
Yeah. Stephanie froze up. Oh no.
Oh no. Well, I have a little something to tag on.
Okay.
Is she coming back?
I don't know.
Oh. Well, I can speak to the what to do when you've made big damage.
Oh, there she is. You froze up. You were just like a frozen cycle here.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now you're okay.
Yeah, my Wi-Fi just jumped. I don't know why. I started talking about having tech issues. You see? Oh, like, I'm so anti-tech, and like, literally, like, I don't need to be spending time migrating ClickFunnels pages. I don't need to be I don't even know how to log in my website, and that might seem so ridiculous to most people. But I don't need to know this stuff. I have a developer that works for me full time, and I'm like, hey, you know, can you help? Can you do this? Like, I think it's so, for me, it made so much sense, even when I made no money. Like, I made no money, but I was like, okay, I know I'm starting this online business. I am so not tech. I know that I need to be the voice. I need to be the person behind the brand. I need to be, you know, the one that produces the content, but I don't want to be the one that ties it all together. So for me, in terms of growth, it made the most sense to hire a developer. And like he became a full-time paid employee, which he's now worked with me for over 2.5 years. But then I think he was working like an hour a day. So you know what I'm saying? Like you can grow with people on your team. And like there's tons of people out there that will help you grow that way because that's where they are in their businesses. So yeah, I guess you just have to find like that sweet spot and that synergy with people in order to really get it to the next level. Because I could not be here without my team. Like I tell a joke. I mean, I'm wearing like sandals right now, but I say that I couldn't tie my shoes without my team because I rely on them so much. It's not even funny, you know. But that's the reason why our business continues to grow and scale month over month over month over month, and we're hitting these huge goals that like we're making more money in a month than we did in a year, which is like we never even envisioned that happening. But it's all as a result of the beautiful like orchestra that comes together by having the right people in place.
I love that you said that. And just to tack on to that thing of like, how do you, if you've made either a bad investment or had like a bad money thing happen, and Stephanie, you talked about your 100,000. I actually ran a 7-figure real estate business, and when mine collapsed, I had 150,000 in debt. Ooh. And like, I was hemorrhaging about 9,000 a month. Oh, and P.S. we had retired my husband, and he went back to school. And I almost lost, like literally almost lost everything. Pulled myself back up, but got myself to a great place. And then about almost 2 years ago now, we retired my husband again because he went back to he was a chef. And I almost tanked again because I got that same feeling like, oh, everything was going great. I told him to retire and go do something different. And then I tanked my business. So I had to do a lot of work around understanding that you become a different person and you make different decisions from a different place. And so the choices that I made the first time that caused the tanking are impossible because I'm not the same person. And that's also why I consciously chose to do things very differently, because I knew the more I did things differently, the less likely I was to make the same mistakes again. Yeah. And so doing that, I think a lot of it was the inner mindset work, but also I invested before I was ready. I chose that I was going to do things differently. And whenever I get this objection, because I do a lot of sales work, obviously, is well, I need to implement all this stuff I've already learned. Or I paid $50,000, one of my favorite clients. She paid $50,000 to a person to set up an evergreen teleseminar thing. It never ever made any money. So guess what she decided to do? To never ever invest in somebody else helping her set this stuff up. And I was like, why are you cutting off your nose to spite your face? So you made a bad decision. If you wait to recap that, or recoup that money, you're never going to if you keep staying there. So I always say, see how you're different and move yourself forward from a place of change.
You know what's really funny about that is when the markets crashed in 2008, I was in banking and it was in investments, and I can remember I was on a cruise ship when it happened. And so it was much worse for you guys in the States than it was for us in Canada, but we still definitely felt a big ripple effect. And I was, I sold mutual funds at the time and things and investments and things like that. And I can remember people just lined up at my door wanting to pull all their money out. And I would tell them, if you pull all your money out now, your losses are real. If you keep the money into the fund and you let it recoup over the next 5 years or 10 years or whatever it is, like if you look at a chart of the stock market, right, it's always like this, but it's always going up, right? And so when you leave your money in and you really, continually invest and you don't give into that fear and you don't just pull all of your resources out of it and freak out, right? Then all of a sudden those people ended up making back what they lost plus some. Right. And so, and it was within like 3 years or something like that. And that's really tough to wait 3 years for something to happen. But, that's what needed to be done. So anybody who pulled out, they lost their 30-40% forever. Like you put it into a money market fund, you're making like 2% or whatever. Like you're never making that money back ever for as long as you live. Right. Unless you were like 10, I don't know. But I think that's really important. And so, it's funny because I have a financial background, but I've always been really bad at money, and most bankers are, because we have such great access to debt, right? I mean, I could just go to the guy across the hall and be like, hey, I want to buy this. Can you give me a car loan? Like, yeah, okay, whatever, right? Or more like we're a lot more open to give each other debt than other people. And so I had all this debt, and I've always been really bad at managing my money and things like that until I started looking at it every day. So Stephanie, you mentioned you look at your profit and loss every month. I look at my money every single day, and I have to, because if I don't, I will spend it on stupid things. I will, right? I will. And I won't really honor the money that's coming in, and all of a sudden it stops flowing. And I can remember even just maybe a month and a half ago having a few clients, some really awful things happen to them, and they just sort of dropped off the face of the earth. And all of a sudden that income that, you know, I was relying on to pay my team and to pay our day-to-day and to do some really cool projects that we already had committed to, all of a sudden it was gone. And I had to find the money to pay everybody and make sure that there was no negative energy around my money, right? There can't be this outstanding debt or outstanding, you know, you can't just not pay your people. You can't just not pay your coach. You can't just not pay whomever, because as soon as you do that, the money stops flowing into as well, right? I mean, it's kind of like when you give something to charity and you feel like you don't have the money, and all of a sudden, you know, you end up getting another client just sort of out of the blue. Things just sort of happen like that. And it sounds really woo and kind of, and I'm so not a woo-woo person. So that's really funny coming from me, because even in the whole law of attraction and The Secret and things like that, I'm not really that into that, right? But it's so true that there is this real negative, and it's because you have this on your mind and this stress of, I need to get this paid, 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 right? And so it's the same thing if you never file your taxes on time, or even if there's no money outstanding, you don't really have to file it or whatever, right? So here in Canada, if you don't owe anything, you really don't have to file it. So you can just hold on to that for a couple of years until you owe it, and then file it all at once and be good to go, right? And
Let's all move to Canada.
yeah. Well, we also don't have, like I know in the US, I had a client who was like, yeah, I have to pay these taxes that I didn't know I owed from my mom's estate, or I might go to jail. And I was like, what? That could happen? Like, that can't happen here. We can't go to jail for not paying taxes. So I don't know. I'm sure if there was fraud or something, maybe we could. But if you just don't pay them, whatever, they'll just take it out of your account or something. You know, no big deal. But I don't know.
I need to make my tax payment.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they'll just take it, right? So yeah, they'll just take it.
Story.
Yeah. But those things need to happen though. And if those things don't happen, then you just have this negative, like really crazy block in your head. And you just cannot move forward from that because you're so stuck.
You know, it's really weird for me. Like when I started paying attention to things, like, and I started paying off my debt, I had this like debt repayment plan. It was like this, oh, like it felt so good every month.
Yeah,
even though I was depleting the money that I was making by paying like large amounts of money every month to my debt payments, I literally felt good about it. So I kind of like changed the whole scenario. Like it changed energetically, changed how I felt about paying my bills. It was like, oh, yay. And then like as every month I had a spreadsheet, and as the numbers would get lower and I would keep a track of the balances, I was like, oh my God, this feels so good.
Yeah.
Because I did this. I did this because I turned it around and I put in the hard work. And now when my bills come and I'm like, I just pay them because I'm like, I'm happy to at this point. Like,
yeah. Well,
changes.
Money needs a container to flow into, right? So if there is no container, if you're just like, hey, I want to make $20,000 a month, but you don't have any purpose for that money, you don't know where that's going to go. You just want to make $20,000 a month for whatever reason, you're probably not going to make that $20,000 a month. So when you get out that spreadsheet, sorry, my dog's buffing here. When she just came home yesterday and she's all like itchy, scratchy, and like really freaked out. But when you have a container for it to flow into and you have that spreadsheet, you know, I have my spreadsheet that I look at every day, it has these containers and it says, you know, this is where this money is going into, this is where this money is going into. And my goal is set based on what are my money goals for the month. And so as I look at it every day, I can see what I'm going to be missing out on if I don't hustle and make that money, which I think is really motivating too. because I can be like, oh, I really want to do this mastermind, but I'm not going to be able to do that unless I'm able to put my money into that container. And so I'm going to make that happen, right? So the containers are super important. Yeah, it's a good game. Yeah, that's how I set my income goals for the year. So when I set an income goal, you know, it literally is all of the things I want to do in the year. And those are my little containers. And then my number will be some really funky, like crazy, weird ending number. It's not going to be a round number like, you know, $750,000. It's going to be like 767, 868, like something really weird, because each and every dollar has a container that it's going into.
I love that. That's good stuff.
Yeah, yeah, it works. It works really well. I find that so much more motivating.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So what I want to talk about next, if it's okay with you guys, is the kind of like order of operations when it comes to investing. Because I know, like, for Stephanie, one of the first things that you invested in was a mentor, and that for me was the same thing as well. Like I even with like my paralyzing fear of spending money, I just knew that I needed to change the way I thought before anything else was going to change. So my first big investment was a mentor. But as far as like, I feel like there are kind of different stages. There's like getting a mentor, there's investing in marketing, there's investing in your team, you know, like, do you guys have any thoughts as to like what order those should come in, or if it is linear, or if it's different per person, or any thoughts on that?
It depends on your business model.
Yeah.
I personally feel like if you don't have your mind right, then none of the other pieces make sense or matter. So you better get that in check first, whether it's some kind of spiritual awakening or a mentor or somebody that's really skilled in that area. Like, you got to get to the bottom of that stuff first, because if you don't uncover all those layers of stuff that's just like talking this story to you, like, goals become really hard to achieve. Marketing, what's the point of putting money into it? Like, if you're not even sure who you are, your ideal client is, or your voices, like, don't even go there. You don't need a Facebook ads course. You don't need to think about passive revenue, because nothing is going to work if your mindset isn't in the right place first. So for me, the mentor was the most significant piece to my journey, specifically because he challenged me to think differently. And when I realized, oh my God, like, this person has this really strong belief system, and I could see all these discrepancies in my own beliefs, that I was able to dig a little deeper as to why these things were happening, and they kept continuing to come up. And then I was like directly relating my lack of success to my own self. And I was like, whoa. And I think when you get to that point, and then you can change that. You know, you have the ability to change when you can first admit and see where the problem lies, right? And we went all the way back to my childhood and uncovered a bunch of stuff. Like, I was bullied, and I was afraid to share my voice authentically as a result of that. It was like, that's really gonna hold me back today? Like, 22 years later, like, that's a bunch of crap. But so, like, putting that like connection between those two things, and then being like, oh my God, I'm so ready to get through this. What do I need to do to make it happen? That was my motivation. So my personal opinion is, don't put $1 into marketing. Don't put $1 into branding, Facebook ads, passive revenue, sales funnels, until you really have the mindset right. And obviously mindset is something that I continue to work on a daily basis. Like, it's not to say you get to this certain point in your business and all of a sudden all those stories, never hear any negative comments. I wish, right? But it doesn't. Mindset challenges you on a regular basis. And so it's something you continually have to work at. And you'll know when you're not doing the work, because those things will start creeping back in. Like, who are you to ask for that much money? Or who are you to make this much? Or blah, 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 right? And then you're like, you didn't serve me today. Keep going. And do whatever it takes to get over those blocks, because it will be the most freeing experience of your life. And the path, I believe, will be revealed after that. All the parts and pieces will start to come into place when you do that inner work.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think first of all, like, math girl, order of operations. I love that you just said, like, hello, fellow nerd. I love you. But the other piece of that, so just kind of getting into, I think the mindset, as you guys said, is so, so, so important. I think the other piece is that when you start out a business, you don't fully understand what your business is or who you are as a business until you start speaking to clients, until you start really speaking to the people that you want to serve. Because sometimes you get into the zone and you're like, I really think that this is what I want to do. You start doing it and you kind of go, oh, this it really actually isn't exactly what I want to do. I think I'm better off serving them this way. And so I always say, before you invest money into marketing and things like that, that you are serving your clients first. So before you even, you don't need a website, you don't need a Facebook page, you don't need all of these fancy things yet until you start freaking figuring out your business. And to do that, you need to get clients. And, really to do that, you can just pick up the phone and start calling people, and you can spend 8 hours a day on the phone, and that's what you should be doing. So if you think about somebody who works at, let's say, and a lot of us business owners, right, we kind of get this into our head, like, oh my gosh, I have so much to do. I can't possibly spend 8 hours just having conversations with people and asking who do you know, and, trying to get connected to the right people that I want to serve, right? But really you can. And if you think about it, if you had like a blue collar job or even, a white collar job, right? When you start at a lower level job, those people are always just serving people all day, every day. Think about if you worked at the DMV, right? If you worked at the DMV, you clock in, you serve people all freaking day, and then you clock out, right? But you just talk to people all day, and that's all you do. And it's this line and line and line of people. So you can create that line through the connections that calling them up, seeing how things are going, asking them, who do you know? I'm doing this thing. Who do you know that might be a good fit? Oh, can you connect me with them? And you just keep connecting and connecting and connecting until you have a few clients, you're supporting yourself, and then you can look into the marketing pieces. And you should look into the marketing pieces. That's all really important. But you shouldn't do that until you've really figured out how you're serving clients and how your clients want to be served. Right? I mean, sometimes you get into serving a client and you're like, oh, I'm figuring out that they actually need these pieces that I didn't really think about before. And so had you marketed your business in a certain way, it wouldn't have resonated with those people because you didn't know that, right? And you can't know that until you kind of really get into their head. And often we fall into the trap of, I'm my ideal client, but every situation is different. And you're going to find little nuances that kind of, go back and forth, and getting stuck in that trap of, I'm my ideal client, so I know everything about it, right, is, it's a little bit egotistical to think that like everybody's going to have the same journey that I'm going to have, and I know best, and I already know perfectly well exactly how this is going to roll out. So I think that that's really important, and it costs all of zero money to do that. And then to get into some of the marketing, and things like that. Sorry. That's calling, and it comes through my computer for some reason, and I don't know how to stop it. Okay, there we go. It's so funny. Yeah, the pleasure of the iPhone knack, and it all goes together, and I have no clue how to stop that. So I might have to get somebody to do that. Anyway, so yeah, train of thought is kind of lost, but you guys kind of get where I'm going, I'm sure.
I can tap on just a tiny bit. Is the mindset, the mentor, the coach.
Yeah.
Pick the person who's done what you want to do and can help you cross through your bullshit and do it more quickly. Number one. Number two, hire out the little tasks. I'll tell you, my investment with my VA, the first VA I hired, I think I was paying her like $150 like every 2 weeks. I actually made more that month through that investment than I did with paying my coach. I was paying like many thousands of dollars to work with, because I suddenly was responsible for someone else, but also I would sit with a lead page to do an opt-in for 3 or 4 hours and still not make it work. 10 minutes, she's done. So I say hire out all the small tasks first and then grow it. She now does like, I don't know, I pay her a lot more money and she does a lot more stuff for me. So hire it out as you need it. Like I only started doing Facebook ads like, I don't know, a couple of months ago, and I've been doing this since 2008.
Yeah, and your weaknesses too, right? Like I can do a lead page in 5 minutes flat, but I'm super techie, right? Like super techie. I could throw up a website, guys, in like a few hours, right? Like super duper techie, but that's my background, right? So I think really knowing what your strengths and your weaknesses are and hiring out your weaknesses and making sure that you, a lot of people make the mistake of hiring people that are just like them instead of hiring people that fill those gaps, right? Yeah. Like, at the end of the day, I know my strengths, I know my weaknesses, and I need to hire out people who not only fill my weaknesses, but are also very, very much so similar to me personality-wise. Like energetically, if you don't energize me when we're sitting in the same room together or when we're on a talk like this together, if I don't feel more energy and if I feel drained after a conversation, probably not gonna fly, because I'm gonna spend way more time worrying about what you're doing, and I'm gonna spend way more time energetically drained and trying to get myself back into a place where I can be productive again than I ever could have had I just hired somebody who was, you know, for me, just somebody super positive and bubbly, you know, somebody who is no excuses and just get shit done. They may have a million questions. That's totally cool with me. Other people are like, I hate when people have a ton of questions. I just need them to know their shit and to get going and doing. So you need to know yourself really well and what works well for you and what doesn't.
So I just have one quick thing to say. So I was the girl that booked 100 calls.
Yeah.
At least, maybe even more than that, in all honesty. But so when I got started, people were like, well, what did you do? And I was like, well, I didn't have a marketing budget. You know, I was in all of this debt. I was like, I got to make this work, you know? And I just started showing up, and I started sharing my own authentic journey and the transformation that I had experienced in my own life, and just sharing it. And there was no, it wasn't even about making money. I was just like, I felt called to serve. And as a result, people will be asking me on the end of the call, how do we continue to work together? And I'm like, oh shit, like now they want to hire me. Oh my God, I don't know, give me a couple hours, I'll have something to you. I didn't have package prices, nothing. I had nothing. I didn't have an opt-in, I didn't have a landing page, I didn't have a website, I had nothing, but I just figured it out. Like, I just showed up. I showed up to serve. I knew what I had experienced in my own life, and it was the most powerful thing because I overcame myself. It was like this crazy thing that I can't even like describe, but I was like, oh my God, I gotta share this, because if I was struggling this much, I was sure that somebody else was struggling that much too. And if I could just help one person, that's all I wanted to do. I just want to help one person. If I could help one person, then I felt that I was proven to do this. And I didn't just help one, I helped hundreds. Yeah. And so it was like this crazy ripple effect started happening. And within 45 days, I hit my first $20,000 a month as a result. And people are always like, how did you do this? I'm like, I showed up, but I also showed up really authentically. I wasn't trying to be a sales funnel success strategist. Like, I evolved into this because the way my business and my life, just the direction it took. So I just showed up and was working with people on mindset and techniques and strategies that I had used to overcome myself. That was it. That's where I started. I wasn't thinking outside of the box, trying to be the expert of everything anymore. I was literally just being me. And it was like, oh my God, and now I can get paid to do this? And I remember, like, within the 45-day period, I secured a $15,000 client. So I had like a $297 1-hour call. I had like a $1,997 1 month with unlimited text and email support with me. And I had that big $15,000 package because I thought, well, why not? You know, why not? And I remembered the day that I secured that package, and the client was like, so should I pay in full? And I had goosebumps, and I called my mother, and I was jumping up and down in my apartment. I was jumping up and down. I was like, it's happening. This is real. Oh my God, you know, like crazy. And it was just, it continued like that, you know, just, it was like this snowball effect. And then obviously my business evolved into other areas, and it was a really cool evolution. So like, start with where you are. Like, you're perfectly equipped today to make the right moves to go forward, you know, and you know what those gifts and strengths are. Like, we're born with them. We're literally born with them. So if it's your ability to inspire or to use your voice or to whatever it is, do that right now. Like, don't make it so flipping complex that you have to have all these parts and pieces in place before you actually go out there and serve people, and then in turn create an income stream from it. You know, you just do it.
I think it's really important just to point out real quick that the whole notion of massive action and just connecting with as many people as possible, like 100 conversations, we've all kind of played this game, right? That in and of itself can be done in any industry. That's not just if you're a coach, right? That's not just if you're, that's any industry. And I started off my interior design business the same way. right? I started off my marketing business the same way. Actually, my marketing business to this very day has no website, no Facebook page, no anything. It grew by invitation and referral only. And it's full 6 months at a time. Like 6 months out, I never have to worry about that. And it employs 8 people. So, you know, there are just different things. But massive action works no matter what business you're in. That's super important.
So, okay. So then another comment, it seems like we all have like the same story. When it comes to like this concept of the 100 conversations and just getting on the phone, getting out there and talking to people, because that's something that I always recommend people as well, because I think, you know, as a marketing mentor, I run into, and I'm sure you guys have as well, a lot of people who want to kind of go from 0 to 60. They want to just, you know, turn on a website, turn on some Facebook ads and have that take care of their problem, have that fix everything. And then they find that it doesn't, and they're just like, well, crap, like that was my only option, I'm done. So, and we would all probably say to them, like, forget about that for now, like just start talking to people. And just go to, you know, go network, go to events and like just meet people and get referrals and do all this stuff. But my question for those who might hear this later, who are in that spot, is when you go to have those conversations, what do you say?
Yeah. You're so funny.
No, I mean, that's literally what I teach. So the number one thing that you say to people is not what you say, it's how you say it.
Yeah.
So be like complete. If you're somebody who's high energy, get yourself into a pumped up place. If you're someone that needs to ground down, but center yourself so you're your strongest self before you speak. Speak with confidence. Speak with conviction. Conviction's a really big one, because I think people talk about passion you can run around with, but when I talk about what I'm doing, no one ever questions me. Like I don't want to say I could be lying because I just can't do that, but like I could be making up stuff, but I speak with conviction and confidence. I know it. So bring those energies to the call. The other thing is have a direct purpose. Like I do a 5-step sales process, very simple. You connect with the person, you listen and learn, find out what their struggle is, you find out their vision of what they want, then you invite them to work together and you close. Super simple. But the thing that I find that most people do is they get on calls and they have a great conversation and then they get off and they're like, well, what just happened? So every time I get on a call with someone, I lead it, I speak with confidence and conviction, and I know an outcome. And it doesn't mean that I get someone to a yes or a no. My outcome is that by the time we're wrapping a call, it's, hey, it sounds like we're a great fit to work together. Oh, sounds like we're not a fit to work together. Or it sounds like you know some people that we could work with. Or, hey, I think we could be a JV or partner or something. But I always make sure at the end of a call, there is a close. Here's what's going to happen after our call. We're complete. That's the fastest way I can explain it.
I think too, when we're into sort of a networking atmosphere, like how do we get them even into these calls? How do we even get to that point? I love the statement, who do you know? I think it's such a powerful thing that you can use in so many different scenarios. But when you just have a conversation with somebody and they ask you, eventually somebody's going to ask you, what are you working on now? That's just the natural progression of any conversation. And so when I start a conversation, I never lead it into this sort of salesy kind of area, asking them questions that are very, very clearly, you know, intended to get the answers that I need in order to close them. And, you know, when we're on a discovery call, that's a completely different deal, right? Like that's what they're expecting. But if you just met someone in a coffee shop, you're not like, oh, hey, so, you know, how's your mindset sitting with you these days? You know, like that's really awkward. And you talk to them about really common things, you know, how are the kids doing? What are you up to nowadays? Like, oh, that's really interesting, and be genuinely curious with them. And eventually they're going to ask you, what are you up to these days? You can say, well, you know, it's funny you asked me that because I'm working on this project right now and maybe you know somebody that would be a good fit. Do you mind if I tell you about it? Ask their permission to tell you. Don't just blatantly pitch it out to them, right? Like ask their freaking permission. We're always doing things without permission in our society, right? So ask their permission and tell them about the project. Just be like, hey, I'm really excited about this. This is who it's for. Do you know of somebody who's a great fit? And I've had a lot of people who say like me, I'm a good fit for that. And I'm like, cool. You know, I'm going to invite you into a conversation where we can talk about this further. Because in this forum, we're friends. Let's talk about working, you know, we'll get onto a call together and we can talk about it. But change that environment up so it's not like friendly coffee shop and you're kind of like shifting, you know, change up that environment and you're good to go. So that who do you know is something that anybody can use, no matter what industry, no matter what you're doing, to just say, hey, I'm working on this. Who do you know would be a good fit? Maybe you know somebody, you know, and go with it that way. And that's a great way to network because it's so genuine and it's so easy. And it's just like a normal conversation that you would have with somebody at a party. So you're not just going up to them and being like, hey, I'm Heather, I'm a coach. Who do you know that needs coaching, right? And they're like, you know, you're really intense. So
for me, I would just ask a lot of questions. Can anybody relate? Like, I was like saying things that had happened in my life, and I genuinely wanted to know for like validation purposes. Have you ever experienced this insane amount of fear in your business where it's just not working? And it's like, oh my God, here I am. And every day you feel paralyzed. Like, what's the next step? What's the next step? And it was real questions that I was experiencing at one point that I had just gotten over. And I really was like determined to help people in that area. So it was like just asking questions. And then all of a sudden, all these people were showing up because once one person was answering, then it was like allowed, it's like getting permission to have everybody else contribute. And so it would become this great conversation, which then would lead to a private message behind the scenes and be like, I'd like to know more about what you do. What is it that you do? Do you think we could talk a little further? You know, today was really helpful. You know, whatever the next step. And then it's like totally easy to be like, yeah, let's set up a time and hop on the phone and just walk through this.
Absolutely. It's completely natural. And they're basically asking for it, right? So
So, okay, here's a total 180, because I want to talk for a second about live events. Can we talk about that?
Sure.
So I know I know Stephanie does. I don't know the other two as well. But I know my guess is that you've done some speaking. So for somebody who wants to get out there and grow their business that way, say they want to just start and like plan a tiny event, like where does that all fit into the puzzle? Would you recommend that, or would it be like get on the phone first, and at what point do they move to that, and is that a good idea? Yes, just talk about that for a minute.
Build your client roster first, no matter what you do for anything you do. Because after you work with like 10 or 12 people doing something, you suddenly start to see what the common thread is, and then you can teach it as a group, teach it as a live event. But first, get that, like, whatever amount of time you want to work with them, get your practice or your client base together. And then for speaking, my favorite first way to speak is speak at other people's events before you gather your own event.
Yeah.
Which is, let somebody else do the work to put it together, so you're there, because what it takes to fill an event, what it takes to do the content for an event, what it takes to manage an event, those require you to hire other people or to put your own different hats on. So first, if you want to speak at events and you think you want to put one together, go participate at one, or go participate at like 10.
You know what I used to do?
How would you recommend that somebody get into that, like get that kind of opportunity?
I would suggest just being highly visible. Like, I created my own stage. I wasn't waiting for someone to invite me to theirs. I was like, hey, I'm here, by the way, and this is who I am, this is what I do. And I just start talking online. Like, live stream is a great space to have your own event every single day. And from there, you create this insane amount of like attraction visibility, attraction marketing, where people are now reaching out to me because they've caught a live stream, or because they've seen my post, or because they read a blog, whatever. Hi, hello. And then from there, like, I'm now invited to speak at people's events. So it was pretty easy.
Yeah. I mean, some other ways that you can do it as well on a smaller scale. So something I did in my interior design business was I recognized that the clients that I wanted to deal with, or the clients who had the money to do the big design projects, were working in certain fields. And so I would go to engineering firms. I would go to law offices. I would go to the places where my ideal clients were working, and I would offer to do lunch and learn sessions. And so lunch and learns are great because you already have the audience built in within that community, and you can really, you don't have to worry about filling the event, right? Really, because the event's already full. You already have the audience there. They put up posters in the lunchroom. Some people show up, some people don't. It's all good. And it's low pressure because, you know, people are kind of eating lunch, and you have about a half hour to talk. And so it's not this big, giant thing that you have to do. workshops are another great way to really serve your clients. And that could be an online workshop. It could be a local workshop, depending on where your clients are, right? I'm actually in the process of doing one locally because I just want to be more deeply rooted in my community. We moved here 8-9 months ago, and it's just sort of one of these things where I wanted to feel closer to my community. And so we started doing a workshop, and I love to fill a workshop to get promoters. So promoters are just like if you were doing a concert or something like that. They get 20% of the ticket sales, you know, and they'll bring in the people for you. And you can just throw an ad up on Craigslist, Kijiji, whatever, and get 4 or 5 promoters for your event. And it works really, really well. Create a local event on Facebook, share that, and people will come to it, right? And I mean, this is a small workshop where you're selling 15, 20 tickets. It's not something, a big event where you have hundreds of people coming. That I would say definitely, as Laura said, to wait to do that. But the workshops are a really great way to start talking to people. And if you're nervous about having those one-on-one conversations, it can be really great to put together a workshop and know that people are interested in talking about this, and to ask them at the beginning, what are you hoping to get out of this today, right? And then to go through at the end, well, okay, we did this, checking them off the list, but then you start to learn about your ideal clients, and those can become another workshop or a course or something else because they've told you right there and in person. And it's almost like this mini brainstorming session, right? It's not just one person who's maybe hiding a little bit because they're really nervous or scared. It's like this big group of people who are coming up with all of these ideas, and they feed off of each other. And all of a sudden you have your ideal client profile sitting here in front of you from one workshop, 10 to 20 people. So that can be another great way when you're starting out to kind of get yourself out there.
I love that you said that. Don't worry about the size. If you want to gather people, when I did real estate, I did little training seminars to fill a bigger training seminar to fill a bigger program. And sometimes I liked it when there were only a handful of people. I would then like sit with them and we would talk. And sometimes when there was a bigger group, we would be on stage. So just start where you are, do a 3-hour thing once a month, one time, 45 people in a room. Don't worry about having to start with hundreds of people.
Yeah. Yeah, and it will grow from there because those people will continue to come back to your other workshops, right? You'll have a handful of those people who will automatically buy the tickets to your next one. So your next one will be even bigger, and then even bigger, and then even bigger. And you can grow these events, but it can grow really organically. And all of a sudden you can start a series based on what they already told you they want to do next. So, you know, you can really help them to create that content in your business. Versus you having to like rack your brain and try to find this content that you think is going to work. You just have to listen to the people in front of you, and they create it magically for you. All you have to do is show up and deliver on your own expertise and your own life experiences and these things. So we are, I think, right at an hour. We're over an hour now, so we need to wrap up. But thank you so much, Brittany. This obviously, we cannot stop talking. So yeah.
One more thing I want to do before you go.
Sure.
We're going to have to spin the wheel of nerdiness. You guys
we have a wheel of nerdiness? Yay.
I brought it out just for you. So
I'm super excited. My inner nerd is just flying.
Oh, this is so cool. I thought this was like this big.
I need to put on my glasses because I can't really see it that well. They have a glare.
These are not my actual nerds, but it says their names. These are the names of my actual original team.
That's amazing.
It's a truth or dare game. So depending on what you land on, you guys are gonna have to do something.
Oh boy. My connection's going.
It was a big spin. 80. This is 80. Oh no. He's with Erica. We're on Erica. Okay. So because you landed on Erica, I have to check my little list here.
This is terrifying.
Okay, it's Sir Mix-a-Lot time. You guys are gonna have to rap for me. I like big for the viewers out there. I hope you all.
We're gonna rap. What?
Yeah, you're gonna rap for me.
Just make up a rap or do one that we know.
Yes, you're gonna rap. I like big butts.
I was literally just thinking that in my head.
Oh, sweet. I like big butts and I cannot lie. Just getting that. When a girl walks in with an itty bitty waist and a round thing in your face, you get sprung. I don't know the rest. Yes, that was awesome.
That counts.
That was amazing.
That was an awesome, really group effort.
Yeah, I know. We're like,
it takes a team. Or it takes two to make a thing go right.
Guys,
I need my minors.
yeah, we should not quit our jobs to become rappers. I don't think that that's a thing. So Brittany, where can people find you if they want to learn more about you?
The best place that they can find me is in my Facebook group, the Nerdy Girl Mastermind. So come and join my Facebook group. It's a lot of fun. That's my favorite place to hang out. I'm everywhere on social media, but I'm there the most.
Awesome. Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here today. And thank you to Stephanie and Laura. It's been an amazing show as per usual. So if you guys want to check out past episodes, you can at monumentalmillionaire.com. This episode will be up there as well. But you can check out our last 3 episodes there too and really get to know us. And if you liked this, then make sure to let us know. You know, shoot us all a message. We're all super approachable on Facebook. Shoot us a private message, you know, whatever. Hey, come hang out in our groups. Come hang out on our pages. And all of our information is there at monumentalmillionaire.com. So thank you guys so much for joining us and have a great day. Bye. Yay.
Are we on?
Oh, I think I booted you again.